Alexey had always loved the rain, not thunderstorms or heavy downpours, but the quiet, warm rain that seemed to embrace the city streets, leaving them fresh and calm. Every time it rained, Alexey would go outside regardless of the weather. For him, it was a time of reflection when the whole world grew quiet, leaving only him and his thoughts. One day, as he walked through the park, enjoying his solitude, he noticed a girl trying to shelter herself under a tree. Her thin figure shivered in the cold wind, and she was desperately trying to cover her head with a book. Alexey slowed his pace and approached her. She was remarkably beautiful in her awkwardness, with disheveled hair and soaked clothes. "It seems like you could use some help," he said, taking off his jacket. The girl looked at him and smiled. Her smile was warm despite the rain, and Alexey felt his heart skip a beat. "That would be nice," she replied with a slight blush. He draped his jacket over her shoulders, and they ran together to the nearest bus stop to take shelter from the rain. There, they began to talk. Her name was Marina. She was a literature student, passionate about books and writing her own stories. Alexey was an architect, deeply immersed in his projects and rarely finding time for new people. But on that rainy day, something changed. The conversation flowed easily, as if they had known each other their whole lives. Their talk was filled with laughter, stories about favorite books and movies. Alexey couldn't take his eyes off Marina, and she seemed equally enchanted by his sincerity and intelligence. By the time the rain stopped, they had already made plans to meet again. With each meeting, they grew closer. Alexey admired how Marina could see the world through the lens of literature. She told him how books helped her understand people and the world around her. Her stories were always rich in detail, as if she transported herself into another world every time she picked up a pen. Alexey, in turn, introduced Marina to the world of architecture and urban design. He led her through the streets of Moscow, pointing out buildings that had previously seemed ordinary but now, thanks to his explanations, came to life in her imagination. They walked for hours, discussing architecture and how art shapes life. Sometimes, Alexey would even bring her his blueprints to show her his creations and ask for her input. Their feelings for each other grew, but Alexey felt fear. He had never been this close to someone, never felt such strong emotions. In Marina, he saw not only the object of his admiration but also a partner with whom he could share his life. But he was afraid to fully open up, afraid of being vulnerable. Marina, on the other hand, also sensed a deep connection between them. But she was just as cautious. Her past was tied to a broken heart, and now she was afraid to trust someone so deeply again. She didn't want to rush and feared that if they made the wrong move, they could lose the magic that had sparked between them. Months passed since their first meeting. Alexey and Marina continued to see each other, sharing their thoughts and dreams, but something began to change. Alexey noticed that Marina had become more distant, more closed off. He felt there was an invisible wall between them that he couldn't break through. One evening, as they walked through the same park where they had first met, Alexey decided to talk to her. He could no longer bear the uncertainty. "Marina, what's going on with you? You've become so distant, as if you were holding something back. Don't you trust me?" he asked. Marina stopped and was silent for a moment. She looked at him with eyes full of doubt and sadness. "It's not about you, Alex," she quietly responded. I am afraid of what will happen if I let myself fall in love again. I've lost everything once before, and I don't want to go through that again." Alexey stepped closer and took her hands. "I don't want to pressure you, but you need to know that I am here. I am right here, and I want to be with you. We can face anything together, but only if you let me stay by your side." Marina looked at him, and tears welled up in her eyes. "I don't want to lose you, Alex, but I just don't know how to handle this fear." Alexey hugged her tightly, saying nothing more. He knew that words weren't needed right now. Only time and patience could help them overcome this barrier. Weeks went by, and gradually their relationship began to heal. Marina slowly opened up to Alexey, sharing her fears and anxieties. She started to realize that Alexey was the person she could trust with her heart. He was patient, understanding, and never pushed her. However, fate had yet another challenge in store for them. One day, Marina received a letter from her university offering her the opportunity to spend 6 months abroad in an exchange program. It was a chance she had dreamed of her entire life, but now, With Alexey in her life, the decision was not easy. Marina struggled to decide, afraid that their relationship wouldn't survive the distance. She talked to Alexey, and his reaction surprised her. "You have to go," he said. "This is your future, your dream. I can't be the one to hold you back. If our feelings are real, we can make it through this. But I want you to be happy." Marina hadn't expected such support. She had feared that Alexey would oppose her decision, but his understanding and trust strengthened her confidence. She decided to go but promised herself that she would return to him, no matter what. The 6 months they spent apart were difficult for both of them. They wrote letters to each other constantly, talked over video calls, sharing their successes and struggles. But nothing could replace the physical closeness, and both of them eagerly awaited the day they would be reunited. When Marina returned to Moscow, she realized that the experience had changed her. She had become more confident in herself, more open to new opportunities, and when she saw Alexey again, she knew that her feelings for him had only grown stronger. Alexey, too, had changed. The time apart had taught him to cherish the moments they spent together, and he no longer feared his emotions. When they met again, it was not just a reunion, but the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. They stood again in the park, in the same spot where they had first met. A light rain began to fall, and Marina once again took shelter under a tree, just as she had that first day. Alexey smiled and approached her with his jacket, just like before. "It seems we're back here again," he said softly. Marina looked at him and smiled. She stepped closer and took his hand. "I am not afraid anymore," she whispered, "because I know that wherever I go, you will always be with me." Alexey wrapped his arms around her, and they stood there under the sound of the rain, knowing that their story was just beginning.